I'm trying something new on this podcast. I'm going to be starting to put in initial impressions at the front end of my podcast interviews, just to kind of give the audience an idea as to what my initial impressions were on the amazing people I get a chance to interview. So this week we're interviewing Ty Branaman, and he is an HVAC instructor, a cheerleader. This guy's just a lot of fun just to be around, and he has a really unique teaching style. If you happen to be an HVAC contractor that does in-house training, or you're an HVAC or any type of an instructor for that matter, or a lead tech that's relied upon by management to train the new guys coming up, I think this will be really interesting, because the unique style that Ty has is that he has the ability to adapt his presentation to his audience. And it's all about connection, right? So it's all about humans. So Ty's got a unique style, and he's real well read on how to make those connections in order to make the exchange of information from instructor to student smoother and more interesting and more exciting. So I hope you enjoy this episode. And if you like me doing these initial impressions at the front end of the podcast, please hit like and put your comments in YouTube, because the content that we provide on these podcasts is really all about you guys, and we always want to figure out a way to do it a little bit better. Well, without further ado, let's enjoy this podcast with Ty Branaman. Hey, so I've been following you for a while, Ty, on LinkedIn, and my buddy Greg Crumpton, you know him?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so he was over at my house, I don't know, a couple weeks back, and we were just kind of brainstorming, and I don't know how you came up. And I said, yeah, I got to call that guy or get a hold of him and see if I can get him on the show. So, and you're here, poof. It's like magic. Yeah, so I was kind of checking out your background, and I really I was just looking at a video the other day, and I pulled it up again. You did a heat pump O2 refrigeration cycle little class, and I kind of had a tear running down my cheek, because nobody teaches, the refrigeration cycle. Well, not nobody, but very few. And so I love to see that stuff for sure. So, hey, give us a little, Ty, give us a little background on, how you ended up. I read it all, but I want to hear it from you. It looks like you've been doing a lot of stuff around bringing up the next generation of solid techs.
I am all about bringing up the next generation. When I started, we grew up on a ranch. My dad had a sheet metal shop, and I learned a lot about doing sheet metal and building ductwork early on, but I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. I love my dad, but I couldn't work with the man. And so I started doing installations, and I remember this guy drove up several times a day in this van. He had this big old Slurpee cup, and he was drinking. He didn't even get out of the van. Everybody had to go out and talk to him except for me. I had to continue to, run that ductwork. And I was like, man, is that one of the owners? I said, oh, no, that's just a service guy. I was like, well, how do I get that job? And I said, oh, you got to learn stuff, and you got to read. And I didn't like reading, but if it could get me in that service van, I could drive around the big Slurpee cup, then I was all for it. So I started learning and reading, and I have some learning disabilities. And so for me, reading something, I have to read it 7 or 8 or 9 times before it finally soaks in. But I was determined. I was like, this is what I'm going to get. And then people, didn't have the answers anymore. So I had to keep reading more to find out more of the answers. And then I was just curious, and I just kept wanting to learn more and do more things. And because of ADHD, I get bored very easy. So learning more stuff and how more things happen and work and just become interesting. And then I started training more and more people. And then I got into teaching, and I just learned how to break things down so people could understand it just the way that I would like to understand it. And from there, I've been all over the country, all over the world, and sharing the trade. One thing I love about this trade is no matter what happens, no, the economy or your personal life, no matter what happens, they can never take away your skills. And I've had everything taken away from me. and I started over, and I've
Yeah.
been able to travel and go anywhere I want because of these skills. And I love this trade.
Yeah. That's awesome. Maybe we were separated at birth. I don't know. Because I had the same thing. I'm dyslexic. I probably have a little ADHD type thing because my wife says restless. I don't know. But yeah, I had a lot of difficulties in school. And, the other thing I noticed that was very similar to your background is, you saw the guy in the truck with the Slurpee, and I want to do that, right? That pivotal moment when the right thing shows up at the right time. I had a similar situation happen with me. I was in my high school automotive class learning how to break down a Briggs & Stratton lawnmower engine, right? Which I could care less about. But anyway, they had a rep from Universal Tech down in Phoenix come in, right? And he gave us this thing on, got to go to our automotive school. That's the awesome. That got to learn trucks. You got to fix cars and trucks. That's it. So we sat there for 45 minutes and wah, 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 wah. And then at the very end of it, the guy says, "Oh, by the way, we have this little HVAC refrigeration heating course. You can check it out if you want to. Here's a brochure on it, And so the next thing I knew, I was in tech school back in the early 80s.
Nice.
Yeah. So, hey, tell me about, kind of the day in the life. So you're a full-time instructor now, right? It looks like you were part-time for a while. Yeah.
I'm still part-time.
Okay.
I'm doing multiple things. I do part-time teaching. I do content creation. I do consulting for companies. Actually, this week I'm out doing service calls and maintenance because nothing pays like field work. And then I work for some part-time for some manufacturers doing training for them, and do consulting for instructors, and I do some online training as well. So it's just all over the place.
Yeah, that's all. So, but your preference is teaching. That's what you like to do, right?
I love that. I love it to where when you can get a piece of information or a concept across to somebody, they don't even have to say anything. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their face when they finally get something. And then when they call you back, either when they get their first job, or maybe it's even 10 years later, and they say, "Oh, Ty, I'm starting my own business," or, I got the certification, I'm running this company now. And they're so happy with what they do, and they remembered you from, all those years ago. I mean, nothing pays like that. HVAC training doesn't pay very well at all. But when you get people coming back and you realize you made a difference in their life, I mean,
right.
that is a true pay. I mean, that's just, nothing touches that.
Right. Now you're out in Nevada, correct?
Well, right now I'm in Texas. I
Oh.
lived in Nevada. We actually, my wife's family's there. That's where we kind of want to live, but we're all over the place. We travel a lot.
Okay. So what are some of the things you're hearing from the newbies? Like you get these young men and hopefully women too that are they're exploring skilled trades. What's the common story? Why these individuals did they try college? Did they kind of hang out after high school and then go? What's the track for a lot of these students that are getting into trades these days? I'm curious.
I've seen things from all over the place, from people that did a career that they didn't like, they didn't enjoy, to they wanted to do something that they felt like had more purpose, so they wanted to learn a new career. All the way down to people, it's like, I want to try trades. I want to do, work with my hands, and I don't want to get in a huge college debt. I want to learn some of the basics. From people that's, going through a trade school, or people that are learning on their own in the field. I'm getting a ton of feedback from people. And one of the things that I see the most is Generation Z is some of the most driven people of the last several generations. And right now in the workplace, we have, it's like 4 different generations of people in our workplace. And so there's some misconceptions and things going on. But Generation Z, they're some of the hardworking people. They have drive more than a lot of the other generations naturally is out there. Now, we're talking about people. There's always going to be people that's,
Right.
What we consider lazy or whatever. But one thing I find interesting is I hear companies complaining, "Oh, nobody wants to work anymore." And then they hire somebody at such a low wage where you're thinking, you're already hiring somebody that's made poor life choices. If they can make more money working for fast food without having to buy any tools or have any education at all, I mean, financially, if they can return an investment, you can work fast food and invest that money in the stock market and make more money in the long term and short term. So when people are saying, well, nobody wants to work, I first go to, hey, well, what's your onboarding salary? Oh, we start low because eventually they'll make more in the long run. And I was thinking back, I was like, I remember when I was a kid, I wanted gas money. That was like the end of the week, the gas money, making that car payment. I didn't have these long term, if I worked hard enough, I didn't ever think, I'm going to be an instructor one day. I just really wanted to have a job that I enjoyed for the most part and paid the bills. And so we have to make that change of saying, if we want good talent, we want to recruit good talent, we're going to have to be willing to put some of that pay up front. And then the second thing is training. I have a lot of people that come back, they spend all their time learning, whether it's a community college or a for-profit trade school or learning on their own. They spend all this time learning and they get out into the field, and then you'll hear the first thing that somebody will say is, forget all that stuff you learned. And it's just a huge hit to them. And then the other thing is how people are treated.
Quick shout out to our skilled trade professionals out there. We are going to be putting on our very first BEST workshop. If you have not heard of BEST before, this is a proven process that I've used for the last 30 years and created a lot of millionaires out of this. And I'd like to do that for you as well. We'll be covering work-life balance, every dollar, which is wealth management, wealth building, solid work ethic, as well as how to develop technical excellence in skilled trades. So check this workshop out. I think it'll be definitely worth your time. It is a free workshop, limited space though. We're only allowing 50 people in because we're going to break those 50 people into small work groups, and I will be presenting the workshop live to the small groups myself. So I hope you check it out. Go to skilledtraderescue.com. In the navigation, click on the BEST link. It'll take you to the page that's dedicated to this. That'll give you all the information that you need. Thanks again, and let's get back to our podcast.
Right. So in the trades, we've always known as being rough and, got to have tough skin. But times do change. And some of the ways that I was trained doesn't work for people today. And really, I wouldn't want anybody to be trained some of the ways that I was trained. And we have to be thinking that the people today grew up in a different generation, a different time. We have electronics, computers. You and me, we've adapted to this. And we've used this as a tool. We're talking right now, we've adapted that. But the newer generation, they've grown up with this. They've grown up with video games, instant, changes. You win a game level, and then you've completed it. You get to unlock the next level.
Right.
So we can apply some of this in our everyday stuff to be able to unlock other levels of the new technicians to make it to where they're continuously learning and growing. I don't know about you, but I remember we'd get a raise like every year to be evaluated for our yearly raise. And then a few weeks before your raise, you'd be working really hard. And then after you got your raise, you'd work a little harder, and then you would kind of drop back off and wait for the next year, which wasn't productive for anybody. Well, with the newer generation, if you think about it, they're used to that quick turnaround. So if you give them a task that's either a week or 2 weeks or even a month, hey, I want you to do this or complete this, and they do that, and then you give them a smaller raise, hey, congratulations, acknowledge that, and then they're now doing more, and now it's continual growth. And the companies that are doing this are having great response from the newer generation, and people are loving it. I've had, on the other hand, students that were so excited. I want to get in this trade. I love this. This is what I want to do. And I had an employer that hired like 15 different people. And they said, yeah, every time we get somebody new in, they're all excited at first. But after a few months, they just get into the boring pace and they quit. I was like, well, if you've had that many people come through, maybe it's not a problem with the person you're hiring. Maybe it's time to make some changes in how we motivate those people.
Interesting. Well, that was a lot to soak up, Ty. Let me think
Sorry.
about that. Yeah, no.
I'm just passionate about it.
No, I can tell. That's great. I was thinking when you were talking about my three sons. I have three boys, right? And they range from, 29 to, going a little past 30. So yeah, I'm old. Anyway, so you're exactly right. The Gen Zs, they are so technically savvy that they process things much differently because of their environment, right? They've been playing with smartphones and whatever for quite a while. And what's really interesting is guys like me, or maybe the generation just behind me, they've adapted just like you said, but they aren't going to be around much longer, right? So and then add into the acceleration of technology. So like you look at some of these new VRF systems, and they're pretty high tech, right? I've talked to a few techs that on this podcast, and they start nerding out on me, and they start telling me about, yeah, we actually do troubleshooting with a laptop, right? That's stuff that I was talking about, 15 years ago. Like, someday you're going to do troubleshooting with a laptop, and everybody's like, no. So anyway, it's really interesting, because if we don't figure out a way pretty quickly to attract this Gen Z, what are these manufacturers going to do? Like I was a manufacturer for a while, right? And that's a problem, right? If you don't have people that are technically savvy enough to fix this stuff, what are you going to get? Well, I'll tell you what you're going to get. You're going to get people that want to sit on the phone and talk to tech support until, you better have tech support ramped up to the point where they can diagnose stuff for the techs over the phone. Was that a rant? I think that was a rant.
No, that's
Anyway, yeah, that's cool. So, hey, give me a couple like success stories. I'm intrigued by that. So, like, you've been teaching for a while, and you lit up when you talked about that. All those you guys that are listening in, you got to check out the video. He lit up when he talked about this. So, tell me some people you've trained, and then give me a couple success stories, like people that that just stick out in your brain. Like, I trained them, and then they might have come back and talked to you and told you some stuff, right?
Have students that I've trained, or that I had part of their training. I can't say I trained them entirely, but they're now teaching themselves, and that's awesome. And my very first class, I had a female student in my class, and she has her own business now, and she's running her own company.
Wow.
Just recently, I had one of my students. I stayed in really close contact with him, and he moved to Texas, and I have a Texas contractor's license, and I'm helping him get a business started, and he's calling it his name and sons. So it's not just him. He's looking at his family, his kids being a family business, and that's so nice seeing that family business happening, and he's fulfilling his dreams. He's loving it. Had another student that he got an HVAC, didn't like it, but he liked computer stuff, so he went into to building automation, the IT side of building automation. So understanding HVAC, and he applied what he loved to it. I got another friend of mine that was a student, he's a friend now, and he moved to another state, and he's working for a very large maintenance company, and has his own service van, has great pay, gets continuing education, and has a great life for him and his wife and his kids. And we stay in touch all the time, and he's talking about how he's teaching other techs, and he's using the information that I shared to help teach other people. And I think it's awesome to see people succeed, but then when you see those people also helping other people succeed, I mean, that's when you know that you're doing something right. I'm making a lot of mistakes, but when I'm helping somebody learn, and then now they're helping other people learn, to me, that's the best. Like, that's the top.
Yeah. What about women in the trade? Are you starting to see some more women coming into your classes and stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I've seen tons of different women in the trades. My wife actually now does sheet metal work with my dad, and so she's climbing ladders and up on roofs. And before that, she did marketing, and she started working with my dad. She goes, "This is much more fun. I like this." And she's up on they're hanging copper copper downspouts today, up on a 2-story house, and so it's windy and freezing, and here I am in the studio. So yeah, she's loving it, and I've had a lot of a lot of women just they're doing great, and how they think about stuff is a little different. They're able to think on that deeper level, and also
Yeah.
a lot of homeowners are more comfortable talking
Right.
to another female in their house. So yeah, lots and lots of opportunities. I'm a big supporter of women in HVAC and
Me too.
and their movement. And there's there's just so much opportunity, and there's a lot of things that I didn't know. I just took for granted, not thinking about some of the things that women have to adapt to, and understanding and being a part of their organization, and hearing and learning, knowing that I can better prepare my students and also people in the trade is so important. A big part of life is just simply understanding where somebody else comes from.
I'd like to announce that we have a new ebook out. It's called Technical Excellence, which is the foundation of my BEST process that I blog and talk about a lot on the podcast. So check it out. Just go to skilledtraderescue.com, look for the learn/ebooks link in the menu, and it'll take you to the webpage that has a lot of information. There's a video at the top of this page that will offer you a discount code at the very end. So I hope you check that out. This ebook is also available on Amazon Kindle as well as the Google Play bookstore. So check it out, and the proceeds go to help us continue to run the website, pay our contractors, and keep the content flowing out there. So I really appreciate your consideration and purchasing a copy of the book. Well, let's get back to our podcast. Yeah, that's really good. I've noticed on LinkedIn there's a couple of women that are doing quite well. There's
a lot, way more than a couple, hundreds.
Yeah. I mean, they're trending really highly now, and they're doing they're doing well. And I think what's happening is there's a generational change that always happens in any workplace. And I think the women are finally, they're in the same situation that men are, in that, they may have done some college and they may have gotten their marketing degree, or they may have gotten, a communications degree, and they went to work in an office and they're like, no, this isn't for me, and they jump over into HVAC or plumbing or electrical or whatever. And they find out that the stereotype has changed quite a bit. It used to be, skilled trades is a man's world, right? All these men. Well, I got a feeling that a lot of them are being pleasantly surprised that it's a lot of fun, right?
It's funny. I took my students up on the roof one day and said, "Let's look around, and what do you see?" And so they saw all these office buildings and parking lots, and I said, "That's good, notable." Now, if we think about a lot of people, and it's okay, it's part of their life, but they work every day. They get in their car, drive to this spot, go to the same office, the same building every single day. And as they work harder in life, they can get closer and closer to a window. And if they really hit it big, they can get an office with a window, or even really big, a corner office with 2 windows. And I said, for us, we have an office with 3 windows. We got the front window and the side windows. We get 3 windows every single day, and we get to see different stuff every single day. So we start off hitting it big.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, you mentioned wages a little bit. I want to talk about that for a minute, Ty. So you're in Texas now. How long have you been there? A while now?
About 2 years.
Okay.
I'm from Texas. My business license is in Texas.
Okay, but you travel around teaching and talking to people quite a bit. So you mentioned a couple times that wages are kind of low. Is that let's expand on that a little bit for me.
So I had in Las Vegas, I had a student that graduated. He went through a 10.5-month program, owed $16,000, invested money and tools additional to what the school got him, and he was top of the class. I mean, he was sharp. He was there every day working hard. He was there before class, stayed after class, all the things everybody says we need in the trades. He was that guy, helping other students, never hesitated to get his hands dirty. When he graduated, the job offers were like $12 an hour, $13 an hour, things like that. And they said, well, if you do this for long enough, then we'll, you'll be making, we can put you up to like 15 or even 18. and he was making $17 an hour as a security guard, just sitting on his butt, not doing anything. And that's a big point, is everywhere is different. But there's some warehouse jobs that start people off at $23 an hour. So you're telling me we're going to get good people if we're paying them less than what our competition's paying, hey, you're going to make less money, and you're also going to have to learn and buy tools and work in a hot attic and be able to deal with, me yelling at you and be here 15 minutes early. You're already starting out as really a low pool of people that you can pull from. Mm-hmm. And then we say, well, nobody wants to work. Well, if we adapt a little bit, and I know, pay is always a hot topic, but at some point we're going to have to realize it's not that people don't want to work. They don't want to work for you or for the low wages. People still have to live, and everything now is so expensive.
Yeah.
And I get hung up on that sometimes. Like, times change. I think, well, that used to be half that price a few years ago.
Right.
But times change.
What was this a while ago? This happened before COVID.
It was before COVID. Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. How is it in Texas? Are you seeing the same trending there for your graduating students?
I haven't taught a class here in Texas.
Okay.
Most of them been remote. But I did have somebody. I have two companies that I work with here. One company's been working with Gen Z. I'm not promoting her. I don't know her, but this book, Unlocking Gen Z, is a great book, and I recommend it to a lot of contractors. It's written for business, but you can change it easily. And so they have a waiting list of people that want to come work for their company. They love their culture, how they grow, how they learn. They have a waiting list of people to go. And then recently I talked to another company that said nobody wants to work. He hired everybody that came to the door. Nobody showed up. And so I said, okay, well, let's talk about that. And so we looked through his advertising. He advertised in the newspaper. Well, younger generations aren't looking in the newspaper. They're not looking for jobs.
Yeah, right.
And then we got into the hot topic of how much are you paying? And I pulled up local ads, and a plumbing company with no experience at all was starting people off in the same town at $23 an hour, and he was offering $15. And he thought, well, $15 is a good wage. I'm like, it is, 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. So, and we just sometimes forget that, we get disconnected. And then the next question is, but I have other expenses. And I find that interesting because the cost of everything has gone up. If I need a blower motor, I don't go to the supply house and say, you need to sell me that motor for less money. I'm not going to spend that money. No, we complain, but we buy the motor, and we buy the expensive equipment, and we buy the more expensive fuel, and we pay for everything else, and the price goes up. But when it comes to a person's wages, like, no, this is where we draw the line. We're not going to pay anymore. And yes, the trades do pay well once you get past that, the entry level. My point is, companies aren't having trouble finding people when they do raise that entry level bar, right. And they also work with them to continuously train them as they go, so that the people feel like they're growing. And companies that are doing that are not having issues of nobody wants to work anymore. They're not.
Yeah. Hey, Ty, hold that book up again and tell the audience what the name of the book and who the author is. That was real quick.
It's Unlocking Generation Z with Hannah Grady Williams.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. That'll be in the show notes. So that's great. I appreciate that referral. That's really great.
I've spent the last year researching Generation Z in these different communication apps and talking with tons of different people. It was a heavy lift, but this book just simplified everything that I learned. I should have just read the book and saved a ton of time. But I don't have any connection with her. I'm not even connected to her on LinkedIn. But it's a great book. She's got some other information and digital stuff that's connected with this, little tests for your businesses. Really well done.
Is she here? Is she located here in the U.S.?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, maybe we need to get her on the podcast. Do you have questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, maybe what I'll do, I'll reach out to her and see. And maybe I can get her on the podcast with you, because you're way ahead of me. You've done a lot of studying on this stuff, and maybe that sounds like a great conversation in the waiting. Yeah, that's good.
A big part of it's understanding. I've traveled the world, and it's amazing every time I go to a new city or a new place, the people and how they think. They're the same people, but they think a little differently. They have a different viewpoint of things. And sometimes just simply understanding somebody else's viewpoint, you don't have to agree with it, but understanding somebody else's viewpoint is so beneficial. And so for me, not understanding, I don't think anybody could understand an entire generation, but having an insight to Generation Z and the workers has made me a better instructor, a better trainer. And it's also, I've been able to use that to help businesses be more successful. And because really we're not selling boxes or parts. We're selling like our skills, the skilled trade. So we need to be focusing on the skills of the people that we're bringing in, because that's the magic of trades, right?
So let me ask you the $1 million question then, Ty. So all this studying that you've done on Generation Z that we're training right now, what are like the top adjustments that you had to make in your teaching style in order to more effectively instruct Gen Z? What would be the top things that you've tried that have worked and maybe went down in flames?
So definitely constant feedback. And sometimes it's difficult for me to constantly thinking about feedback, but they don't just want positive feedback. We've heard before, everybody wants a trophy. They don't want, the fluff. They want constant feedback of what they're doing right and also what they're doing wrong. They don't want to have to wait a long time to know if something they're doing wrong is wrong. They also want constant growth, the constant improvement, constant changes. So mixing things up. You and me can sit and watch a video that's 30 minutes long, and my YouTube videos are typically around that. But now we have TikTok where everything's in a minute. And I tell you, I'm not a fan of TikTok or the 1 minute stuff, but this is where people are learning. So I'm trying to get content down to that time so that I can train them where they're at. If this is where they're at and that's our future, then I'm going to make changes and how I can reach these people. Then hopefully I can get a hook at them and they realize I want to learn more, and they'll watch the longer videos and truly learn. But we have to go to where they're at, understanding and adapting to them. And that's one of the things that I learned. And I changed my class up. Instead of teaching, we move it back and forth. We go out to the lab and spend 15 minutes in the lab. Then we come back to the classroom, 15 minutes in the classroom, and just constantly moving. And I've done away with all PowerPoints. I've thrown all the PowerPoints out the window and help them understand. Tell a story and let it be about them. I've learned that let students have their phones in class. It's a tool. There's apps, there's calculators. And then they want to take pictures and do selfies. Embrace it, because they're proud of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And when they're showing off what they're doing and they're proud of it, they're sharing it with their friends and family and other people that only promote our trades. People are like, wow, look at what that person's doing. That's cool. Look at that air handler they're working on. I want to do that. Yeah. It helps everybody. But we have that stigma of get off your phone. I remember the guy back in the day would go get the newspaper and sit in the toilet and read the newspaper for 30 minutes. Well, what's the difference between that and these little 5 or 10 minute, little clips?
Right. That's good. Have you ever heard of a YouTuber named, his handle is Beluga?
It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. So this guy, I don't know how old is he. He's really young. He's probably maybe just out of high school. And he does these short 2 to 3 minute little videos of Discord chats, right? And normally, whatever. I'm like, but I did a lot of research on this guy, and he's got over 10 million followers on YouTube. Wow. Right? Yeah, and I was like, so I started watching these darn things, right? They're very entertaining, and I got to thinking a little bit about the audience. So his audience is probably Gen Zs, right? And so anyway, I've started experimenting a little bit with I've done some chat sessions with some different technicians, and I call it my Beluga project, and I get their permission, and it's taking on problems, right? And anyway, it's really interesting to see what trends, and us as professionals, because I teach too, kind of. I'm teaching people about skilled trades, and I'm just constantly looking for things that I can do to connect, right? And not come off like, just some old guy telling me what to do. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Well, that's real interesting. So, what's your plans, man? So you're splitting your time working in the field. Do you want to get back to full time teaching? Is that your ultimate goal, or you just kind of
Yeah,
you got to kind of getting the best of both worlds right now?
I love the teaching. I
Yeah.
think it's my gift. I think I can take complicated information and I can break it down and make it fun. And I'm really good at adapting. And the classes are constantly adapting. I talked to an instructor just last week, and he had this presentation. It was spot on, but he was. I suggested some things to do differently. He said, "Well, I've been doing it this way for 20 years and it's worked." I'm like, "Okay, well, with education, I'm always changing my classes up. I can
Right.
put good information out and people can look at it on the internet, but when it comes to teaching in person, changing it up, how you can connect to that student. And if I see somebody falling asleep, to me, it's not their fault. They have, you know, late nights and work, who knows. How can I make it more interesting to where that's not even going to be an option? Let's get the class up, let's get them moving. And so I think that's where I shine. And hopefully I'll be able to get in a position to where I can actually teach and help the industry full time without having to have the low pay. I've worked for many for-profit trade schools that make a lot of money, but unfortunately they don't pay their instructors or promote instructor
Yeah.
education. Generally speaking, not all of them, but
Right.
I've had a lot of experience with that. And we need the education, we need the training, but not just with the trade school. We need continuing training. I've been
Hmm.
talking to trade schools saying, hey, instead of just focusing only on new people coming in, we need to have continuing education classes for these variable speed compressors, for these all this new technologies out there so that people already existing can go and learn it. We're just focusing on one part of the industry. We need to be looking at education as all of us, have these
Hmm.
classes to where everybody can attend. I think that would be huge beneficial. So I've been talking with Brian Orr about the possibilities of a destination training center, and that's I'm super excited, but it's just in the talking process now. Like
Right.
we're just talking about it, but I think we can help a lot of people doing that. And I think with the industry support and education, uh, fingers crossed that we can really make some big changes and do some good stuff.
What's the position of the manufacturers these days? I mean, it used to be they sort of had a, I don't know, when I was a contractor and even when I was a manufacturer, I tried to do my best, but ultimately what you're in business to do is move the boxes off the assembly line, right? And you know that you need to get skilled people out there, but a lot of manufacturers really didn't want to make any big investments. Has that changed at all, or they're pretty much kind of hands off, or what's the trending in that area?
There's several different points. There's some companies that are doing great stuff with some manufacturers doing some really great stuff with training and really promoting training. There's
Hmm.
a few points. Some of it is disconnected. By the time they get all of their information through their lawyers, through their engineers, through everything, it ends up being these really dry PowerPoints. And even when there's really great instructors that want to teach it in a fun way, the legal team and the engineers, keep it dry. I worked for a very large compressor manufacturer who I love working for, but even we didn't sell anything, but we taught all these details, and I had to go slide by slide by slide. And I tried to okay, I'm just going to cover all this information without the slides. And it's like, oh no, we got to go back and go through these individual slides. One of the videos wouldn't play, and I talked about everything the video said. We had to stop and go back and play the actual video with the audio because that's how it's supposed to be done. So the manufacturers, a lot of them have the idea, hey, let's put money in the training, but at some point in time, we have to be open to, okay, we're going to have to make some changes in how we do education. We need to speak with people that actually do teaching, that make a class fun. We're bringing technicians from the field in who are used to working every day, and we want them to sit in this 8-hour class watching PowerPoints with the lights half dimmed. And
Hmm.
hopefully we'll put out enough lame jokes to keep them awake. Man, we could do that same information, get it to them, make it fun, interesting, and maybe not cover as much detailed information, but more importantly, have them where to find that information when they need it, cover those main points, and make the class interactive and fun and
Hmm.
learning. And then they'd want to come back for more stuff. They're remembering the information, so they're not having as many callbacks. Everybody wins. But it's
Right.
difficult making changes. I'm trying to make changes in the school side. I'm trying to make changes with the manufacturer side. I'm trying to make changes with the, the companies in the field doing the work, and as well as the people. As
It's
well
okay.
as the people in the field, to want to continue to learn and train. So, I got this big world that I want to change, and people say I can't do it, and maybe I can't, but I'm gonna die trying. I'm
Yeah.
gonna
No,
try. A mosquito in a room can make a big difference, and I'll be that mosquito.
that's good. Yeah. I think that the track that I'm on with Skill Trade Rescue is I'm kind of trying to do the same thing. And what I'm finding, because I know a lot of the decision makers in the manufacturing and the manufacturing suppliers, and I know the particular supplier that you were talking about because they were one of our biggest suppliers of stuff for our chillers. Um, I think that if guys like us could produce quality training that the manufacturers can be connected to, but loosely enough to keep the lawyers at bay. That's the challenge. Um, then I think that's the type of partnership that I think would work. So when I'm trying, and I'm in the same boat you are, I'm trying to come up with things. I'm going at it from the technician side. So you're teaching probably the most important component of day-to-day life of a technician is, are they going to, how to be technically proficient, right? That's a huge thing that impacts your money making capabilities, the opportunities, all that stuff. Key building block. What I'm trying to do is teach some of the other skills, like what is technical excellence? Well, technical excellence is, yes, skills training for sure. So Ty's your guy, but it's also the like mentors, like finding mentors, that how to interview a mentor that will help you as a technician. I'm talking about stuff like, well, what are habits? All right. Well, if you've got a habit of doing something at night, and I'm not going to be specific, but you're doing things at night that's impacting how you wake up in the morning and your ability to perform all this stuff that Ty's just stuffed in your brain for technical ability. How are those habits impacting your career trajectory? There's habits that are getting in your way, and there's habits that are, that are gonna help you, right? And then there's other aspects, like the other one I hear big about. I did a big survey on LinkedIn a while back, and money management is a big problem, because as these technicians start making a lot of money, they're not getting the old home ec stuff in school, so they don't understand investing. They don't understand a lot of stuff about that, or anyway. I'm off on a little bit of a rant again. I tend to do that. But so what I'm hoping someday is these manufacturers may get behind some of this type of training, which ultimately will help them do better, right? As a manufacturer.
That's great, and that's one of the things I love about the women in HVAC. They have a mentorship program where they have people signed up to be mentors, and then they have other people in that either same area or in the same topic, that they work together and train. And I'm still learning every day. I don't have enough to training. There's some great training material out there. There's
Mm-hmm.
amazing content from manufacturers, from everybody, but it really doesn't do any good if it's not being delivered. And that's the mentorship is so important, because having that person, I can
Mm-hmm.
teach stuff on YouTube and people can see it, but when I'm in the classroom, I can talk to that student and I can find out, hey, if they're coming in late, what's happening. You can mentor to that person, something I can't do online. Now, Trevor Matthews does a great job of that. When he does a
Mm-hmm.
class, he doesn't just teach the class. He does that remotely online, talking about,
Mm-hmm.
the budgets and stuff. And for me, I can do that in the classroom. I haven't mastered that remotely yet.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to tons of people, but you're right. And making sure you have somebody to talk to, somebody that you can ask a question to, somebody just to be responsible to, is a
Mm-hmm.
big part of that. And we need more mentors. And if you're watching this, you already have a desire for the trade. start training somebody. You're sure you're
Right.
going to make mistakes. I make mistakes every day, but the fact that you're sharing information, and a teacher is the best learner, because once you're having to transfer information, you realize, you know what? I may not know that like I thought I did. And then you have to
Right.
go and research more. So you're learning 10 times more than you're actually teaching. So yes, the mentorship is so important. And I wish somebody would have told me about finances when I first started, because that first summer I was like, yeah. And then that first winter, I'm like, uh-oh. And I made
Yeah.
good
Well,
money over the whole year, but
yeah, that's right. Well, I've actually modeled it out because I'm a nerd, right? And so I've done the financial modeling for a high school graduate going the college route. And then I've done the financial modeling for the technician going into the trades and with limited debt to no debt. And I've projected it all out. And what I found is that if you give me a Thai trained tech, and they know how, they've got good habits, they've got basic money management skills. I'm not talking about Charles Schwab kind of brain. I'm talking about just habits of making regular installments in your financial future, right? And I don't even have to get into what to invest in. It's just a matter of just getting in the habit of investing and doing it. The financial future of a HVAC tech or a plumber or whatever, they can become a millionaire as fast, if not faster, than a 4-year college graduate. And it blows people. Everybody says, no, that's not true.
I was most of my friends went to college, and I was the trades guy. I was the black sheep of the friend group. But when they were all going to college and barely making money, I was the one sponsoring the parties because I had the actual cash, immediately. I didn't have to wait, for 4 years and then start at that bottom pay before I started making money. I was already making it. I had the nice tools, and I bought my first house at a young age. Once I, learned some of the finance side of it. And that's the great thing about trades is, you're limited to what you can do. I've had
Right.
students before that didn't like HVAC, but they did it to support their music career. One person did it to support his skateboard shop. They did it to support other things they wanted to do. Right. And for me, I love this trade, but really it can be a stepping stone. Another friend of mine, he recently made enough money in HVAC to go pursue his acting career in New York. And it was because of HVAC that, really got him there to that step. He's like, I had a great job. I love what I did, but this is my passion. So HVAC, even though it's, or a trade is, I love it, and so many of us do, it can also be a great stepping stone for people.
Yeah. I think Harrison Ford, if I remember correctly, he was a carpenter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I read that somewhere. He I don't know if it was a carpenter. I could have that wrong, but he was definitely in some type of a skilled trade before he became an actor.
Well,
interesting factoid. I'm sure the Gen Zers are out there going, is that true?
John Gorey, who invented the ice machine, the first refrigeration cycle to make ice before Willis Carrier, he ended up dying of poverty. So he had this great idea, brilliant mind, but without having the business sense of things, didn't mean that he was. I still consider him successful because he left a legacy, but in his own mind, he died heartbroken. So understanding how to manage your money and how to do business, even if you're not running your own business, understanding business, it benefits everybody.
Well, the other one that's big that came up on my survey was even bigger than money understanding is work-life balance. Because, when I was coming up in the trades, it was like, shut up, get to work, just get to it, right? And one of the things I've noticed, and this is back to my sons, is they want to understand. They want to what's the right word?
The why behind it.
Yes, that's it. They want to understand the relevance to what they're doing to how is this good for me, and how is this good? What is this? And I it may be relevancy. The word escapes me right now, but they want to understand that, and their perspective, of work-life balance is much different than from our generation. And you mentioned, a lot of the folks are saying these individuals don't want to work these days. I don't think that's true. I think what it is they need to understand the relevance to that work to their lives. That's really what they want to. And if they understand that, they're just as hardworking as everybody, as anybody, any generation.
I have a quote from 1905 saying that nobody wants to work anymore. It's been said for generations. It's not a new thing.
Yeah. And so work-life balance is a big deal. And I think part of the problem that's happening now is there's so many shortages with skilled trade people. You can't train enough, Ty. I hate to say it. Well, maybe you can, I don't know. But it's going to be really difficult for people like you to train enough technicians to replace the generation that's exiting right now. I don't know how we're going to do it. I just don't. And one of the things that I'm concerned about is the ones that are here, the ones that are working right now, you look at their top challenge with their skilled trades profession is problems at home because of work-life balance. I don't know if you're hearing that.
So there's 2 points of that. The millennials typically want a more of a work-life balance. They now have families. People talk about millennials like they're the new generation. Millennials are already running businesses. They're, they have their own companies. They're managers. They're the people's already been around, but they're the ones that really want the work-life balance because they have the family. They understand the struggles. From what I've found is Gen Z is less likely to want a work-life balance. They want to be part of what they work. They want their work to be their identity. Which is very similar to Generation X. But what they do want is more ways. So instead of being locked into, hey, you're only going to be an installer, spend 4 days a week installing, and then spend on Friday, have them go learn service or learn dispatch or learn some other part of that. Now they feel like they're growing as well as they're learning it. Now their identity becomes part of who they are. They see that a lot of Gen Zs are actually working super long, hard hours because they believe in what they're doing. That's a big part of it. I had somebody say, oh, well, they're just a maintenance person. I'm like, never say that. Maintenance is critical to an HVAC system, to any system, any building. So we have to change some of the vocabulary. Hey, you are a filter changer, which is essential to the life of the filter. Eventually, you're going to move up to being a maintenance person, but showing that job has importance, and because it does have importance, then that gives the Generation Z that identity of, hey, I can connect to that. This is important to me. Generation Z also has that fear of missing out. So instead of it being, hey, if you work hard enough today, will you come back and do it again tomorrow? Versus, hey, tomorrow we have this really awesome install. We got this 2-story house. This customer's had nothing but problems. We're going to go in and solve all these problems. We're going to put in this top of the line, whatever system. Are you ready to be able to do this? You're like, yeah, that's an event. That's something I don't want to miss out on. And it's the same job, but now it changes it. Now people are excited to connect with that job. So how we manage that Gen Z is important. Now, eventually, Gen Z will be old enough, and they will then want a work-life balance. They will have the kids, and that will eventually change. But right now, from what I'm reading, is that Gen Z is less likely to want a work-life balance. But the millennial generation absolutely wants the work-life balance.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Wow, that's a lot to think about, Ty. Can you believe we've been at it for, we're coming up on an hour now, my friend.
Oh, I thought it was just been 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, so what, how can people get in touch with you? I notice you have a YouTube channel. So if business owners out there, that HVAC business owners need some help in the training or consulting department on how to better connect and better change their labor situation, I assume that's the type of consulting you offer, right?
Yep. Okay. And it's TY at LOVE, 2 HVAC. That's my email. my love to HVAC is most of my social media. My YouTube is Ty Branaman, but the is love to HVAC. I didn't know I was going to be on social media. I just recorded some of my classes because the students were like, "Hey, can you repeat that again?" So I just started recording it so they could see it as many times as they wanted, and then it got out, and then so that's why I have a YouTube. It's not because I was trying to be a social media person. So it's just my name, which is, I know, lame, but I'm trying to make everything love the HVAC because it's not about me at all.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
my name doesn't matter. It's all about a love for my trade. Whether
Right.
it's electrician, a plumber, carpenter, having a love for what you do, work with your hands, being the
Right.
professional, learning more. That's what's important. So yeah, it's not about my name other than my YouTube channel is that. It's kind of cringe, but yeah, it's about our trade. It's about learning. It's about growing and helping other people.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I'll put your contact, your email, and whatever other contact information you want me to share. I'll put that in the show notes. And gosh, I could probably talk to you for another hour. Every time you start saying something, I got all these things that run around in my head.
Me too. I love that you're addressing this though, because so many people want the generation to change to their way of doing it, and I'm like, well, we have to go back to in time where they were in kindergartners and change the entire world to make that happen. So I love the fact that you've looked at all these different things. And you've talked about so many important things that, and we don't have time to cover everything, but you've hit so many important topics that I talk about all the time, and you see it, you get it.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great conversation. Love it.
Yeah. Well, that's another wrap of the SkilledTradeRescue.com podcast. I hope you enjoyed this content. Hope you got some great information, and I hope you listen to it safely while you're driving around in your service truck and doing what you do every day to make America great. Check out SkilledTradeRescue.com for new blog posts and content we are adding literally every day, and we are here for you. If there's anything that you think we should be covering on SkilledTradeRescue.com, please do let us know by sending us comments through YouTube, LinkedIn, or email. My email address is mking@SkilledTradeRescue.com. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon.